good. Go play it. What? Was that not good enough for you? You wanted a full video? Fine. Monster Hunter World. The game is great, and unless something ball-bustingly amazing comes out further down the line, this will likely remain my game of the year. I've already logged over 200 hours into the game, and with event quests, the endgame, and future updates I'll be bringing new monsters to hunt and armors and weapons to craft over the coming year, there doesn't appear to be any end in sight. Is it a flawless game? No, but we'll get to that. If you don't want the game spoiled, just take me at my word and go check it out. It is well worth your time. At this point, the game's been out a month, so if you want to avoid spoilers, this is your last chance to get out, okay? We good? Let's get started. Now, while I could sing the game praise all day, I want to use this as an opportunity to explore what I feel are missteps, and some of this is entirely subjective, of course, so if you find you disagree, then you disagree. Let's leave it at that. Monster Hunter World isn't the first entry in the main series Monster Hunter games to feature a fully fleshed out story. Most entries have a story of some sort, but it first became more pronounced with Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate on 3DS. It was a pretty simple tale. You're a fledgling hunter who gets roped into a traveling caravan, and during your travels you encounter and investigate a variety of infected and frenzied monsters in an attempt to uncover and put a stop to the cause behind the frenzy virus. Monster Hunter World is similarly simple in that you're an A-list hunter sent to the New World to help the Research Commission uncover the reason behind the Elder Crossing, which is an unusual phenomenon in which Elder Dragons migrate to the New World near the end of their life. So, if the story is simple, why am I bringing it up? You might be wondering. Well, I do take issue with some of the direction the story takes. It's not bad by any stretch, but damn it, I want to nitpick. First off, the game never really explains what an A-list hunter is supposed to be. Presumably a fledgling hunter of notable competence, but the Ace Cadet counters that argument somewhat. During the 40 years the Commission has been around, they've made seemingly no progress in their research of the Elder Crossing until you show up. It gives me the distinct impression that they just sat around twiddling their thumbs for the last 4 decades. You're by no means the only hunter present there either, so it just strikes me as odd. I was originally going to cite that they hadn't even discovered any land beyond the ancient forest and wildfire waste, but that's not entirely true since the Third Fleet that had gone missing years prior had discovered the likes of the Coral Highlands and Rottenvale in isolation from the Commission proper. That said, why this bothers me ever so slightly more than, say, 4 Ultimate story is that your involvement in the plot feels more like happenstance than 4. There's an established society that deals with this sort of event in multiple regions across the world on a regular basis. I'm obviously just nitpicking, but I think the real crux of the story is how it's implemented into the gameplay. One of the biggest changes brought about in Monster Hunter World is the removal of the separation between the single-player story and online play. I've got my personal issues with this as well, but the worst design decision to arise from this was how the game handles story quests, or as they're called, assigned quests. These quests have an arbitrary player limit restriction, so other players can't join you in the hunt until you've watched a cutscene partway through. Now, to those of you unfamiliar with the series, this might sound like a non-issue, but those of you that have played the previous games know that even in, say, 4 Ultimate, if the quest had a cutscene, they were modified to include all participating players. But okay, maybe it was pushing the limits of the PS4. That's what you're thinking, right? Well, you're wrong! They do just that with each subsequent hunt against Zora Magdaros. No excuse, Capcom. Can't fool me. Now, if you've watched my previous video on town design for Monster Hunter, which you totally should if you're going to understand where I'm coming from on this, you'll know that I very much love how the series has handled the village design up to this point, and that I said I'd touch on my thoughts on how they handled the new town of Astera. And to put it bluntly, this is the worst town in the entire series. When I first heard that they were going to make a large main town for Monster Hunter World, that the online component would support 16 players in a lobby alongside the aforementioned removal of the separation between online and offline play, I thought to myself, yeah, a big hub would be amazing for a 16-player support. I mean, it sounds cool, right? Well, it isn't. The town proper is huge and is only accessible to 1 player at a time. To interact with other players outside of quests, the only place to do that is still the Gathering Hub. But since you can now maintain an online connection while in the main town, there's absolutely no reason for anyone to go to the Gathering Hub, with the exception of the arena questing, which no one ever seems to do. Unlike some of my previous complaints, which were largely subjective, I'd say this one's a legitimate issue that needs fixing. While there are a few ways they could go about doing this, I'm only going to offer the one that's most obvious. Open the town to all players at once. Look, the town proper has 4 seats in the canteen, and they even have this quirk where you can see the armors and weapons other players are crafting as they go by on the conveyor belt at the workshop. Clearly, this had crossed their mind at one point. Hopefully, they'll patch it in at some point, but until then, this is a terrible village for lone hunters. It is needlessly large, and this isn't the only thing that's needlessly large in the game. Great segue, right? Okay. Xeno'jiva sucks. It's not a good fight. I generally enjoy the oversized scripted big boy Elder Dragon fights, but this one is just too big? It's style over substance. Most of the fight is little more than running across its back while you're playing bootleg Shadow of the Colossus. I like Shadow of the Colossus, by the way, that's not me slagging it off. I'll admit that the fight is impressive on a technical level. These big boy Elder Dragons have always been impressive on a technical level, but you're not really able to see enough of it to enjoy it in this particular case. You're basically running around on a giant moving map, but you'll never actually see what you're on beyond its shell till Phase 2. And admittedly, I'm actually somewhat fond of Phase 2 of the fight, since it's the only part of the fight that lets you feel like you're actually engaging with the big boy in combat. And rather curiously, and feel free to correct me on this if I'm wrong, I think this is the only monster in the series that you can't actually kill. You can only repel Xeno'jiva. That's not bad, it's just weird. What makes Xeno'jiva particularly unfortunate is that it's not as if they've forgotten how to make good big boy Elder Dragons. The new Elder Dragon Xeno'jiva is also a big boy, and it's a damn fine big boy Elder Dragon. While I think that the game has benefited a lot from the upgrade to new hardware, the town Astera and Xeno'jiva suffer for it. I'd say that they got a bit overzealous and the design suffered in this particular area. Scale isn't inherently bad, obviously. Handled correctly, it can be great, as seen with the rest of the game and its absolutely massive maps, which play well to player immersion, far more than the likes of the segmented maps of the previous games. I think that more or less sums up my major complaints. Apart from that, the weapon upgrades are kinda lackluster till you hit high rank. Not an original opinion, but it's a complaint I can agree with. Anjanath might be my least favorite monster design of all time, especially among the brute wyverns. I can't make heads or tails on whether or not I like the changes to decorations, having both different size slots in addition to the number of slots available. Certainly makes my armor spreadsheets more of a nightmare when optimizing sets. I feel like the meal system is still needlessly complicated, albeit it's a step above the atrocities committed by Monster Hunter Generations' cooking system, which is a shame because I thought that the meal system in 3 Ultimate and 4 Ultimate were perfectly sufficient and more straightforward than the current one. The Argosy isn't nearly as fun or interesting to interact with as the Wycoon from 4 Ultimate, but that's less of a nitpick and more of a taste thing, I suppose. And that's it for the nitpicks. Suffice it to say, I love everything else the game has to offer, and these are just nitpicks blown out of proportion after 200 hours of play. If you've not played Monster Hunter World, definitely go check it out, and I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe, and with that I hope you all have a great night and that this video lit a fire under you.